You're listening to Don't Take This Personally,
a podcast about the business of creativity.
We are your hosts, wedding photographers, entrepreneurs, and friends, Cami Oliveria
And Gabe Conover. Now let's get into it.
Let's get into it. And don't take it personally, whatever we're about to say.
Yes.
Don't. Do not take this personally. Welcome back. We back. How are you today?
Oh, you're acting like we didn't just record another one just before this. Let's keep the illusion. Yes, this is a new day. We have not seen each other for the last few hours.
It's a new day.
Yes. We're doing the same as we were before.
I'm OAK. If you listen to the last one,
OAK.
You know what that means.
She is Oak.
I'm OAK.
There we go. Brilliant.
Review corner.
Already. Wow, look, we're getting right into it. Man, we are just like so efficient.
We're so efficient and amazing.
We're right on top of everything. Okay.
Speaking of, how amazing are we?
Well, let me just tell you. Kale Dotson, thank you for this review. 5 stars, of course, like we said before, of course. Title, Unmatched Value with an exclamation point. So, unmatched value.
Unmatched value.
This podcast is bananas.
BANANAS.
That's the most rehearsed we've ever been.
I was really excited to do that.
Gabe and Cami give tip after tip in...
Did you just say tip after tip?
That's what it's...
Wait.
Tip, not tit. Is that what you said?
I thought you said tit after
no,
tip.
Tip.
Oh my god.
It's still funny. I thought you were just laughing because of that. No, Kale, I'm so sorry.
I thought you said they give tit after tit.
I would love if it said that. Kale, write us another review and write that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Anyway,
let's back
Gabe
up.
and Cami give tip after tip. Still funny to say. Insight after insight. Things I feel like I would have to pay other photographers to share with me. They're both hilarious. They're so conversational, and it's legitimately enjoyable to listen to.
We are hilarious.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Tit after tit. We're hilarious.
Tit.
If I could recommend one podcast to other photographers, it would absolutely be this one.
That is so nice.
So if any of you other photographers have a podcast, you should really give up now because...
And photographers,
because we're coming for you.
Tell all your friends.
Thank you, Kale.
Thank you, Kale.
That means so much.
Also, Kale, what a great name.
I know. Very healthy.
A healthy name.
It is a healthy
I
name.
bet he's never heard that before.
No, sorry, Kale.
Sorry. Oh.
Don't worry, I know Kale. It's okay.
Well, he'd be fine with that.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Okay. So,
all right.
Should we just get into it?
Yeah. What's our next spicy topic? I'm going to be Cami today. What spicy thing are we talking about today? That's
you being me. Is that what you think
for
of
a second,
me?
No. I mean, you do that for a few...
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't a bad thing.
If you have ever watched anyone make an impression of you, it's painful. Okay.
Don't do me next.
I was like, oh my god, is that what you think of me?
No, it's not.
But I guess that's exactly what I'm like.
See, I can do that too.
Spicy. You're right. Okay.
Spicy corner.
Spicy. Moving on. Okay. So today we are talking about
taking risks.
And
if you know me at all, you know that this is something I do quite often.
You're a risky guy.
Except when it comes to like jumping out of airplanes and stuff like that. None of that.
No
risks when it comes to me falling to my death.
You're not an adrenaline junkie?
No.
Okay.
I mean, every so often.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit of alcoholic beverages to do that.
I'm more of a risk taker in terms of things like that. And more like life risk taking. I'm very risk adverse.
Okay.
Listen to the travel or moving your business episode.
Yeah.
It
took you a minute.
I did not risk anything. I was not willing to risk anything. I made sure, so I think with life stuff, risk is very scary to me.
Indeed.
And you're way better at it, and I just think you have a really great pep talk for me and everyone else.
Yeah. Cami actually asked me, we were talking about if there was something that we thought we would just be, what were we talking about? Mentorships, and how if there was anything that we could teach someone really, really well.
Yeah, like what you would think you're an expert in.
That's what it was. What do you think you're an expert in? And I feel like I could teach people to chase after their dreams. I feel like that is something that I'm really, really good at doing. And Cammie was talking about teaching, you could teach someone how to move their business in a heartbeat. Like it'd be a piece of cake
I
for
do
you.
feel really competent in that.
So, this is mine, I guess. Like taking risks, going after the things that you want to do with your life, because that's what I am all about. That's what I've built, I guess, especially the last few years of my life around, was taking risks. Which
scares the shit out of me because you have every reason to not take risks.
Totally. And that's what I have been told my entire life too. Like we had a condo, we had kids, we have our whole family here in San Diego. Like we have every reason not to remain comfortable, I guess. And like I had a steady job, but I honestly would not be enjoying my life nearly as much as I am now if it weren't for the risks that I took. I would still have a job that I didn't necessarily love at all, that I quite disliked. And who knows where I would be, honestly. I don't know. I don't know where I would be, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm happy with where I am at now. I guess this will a little bit be more of like a pep talk.
I want you to share all the risks you've taken and how you decided to do it.
Well, I mean, long story short, I'm very impulsive. If I don't like to like share the things that are going through my mind until like I actually feel like I'm going to start carrying them out. I feel like I've talked about this before, where like there's this line from a movie that really stuck with me, that it's like, people don't really care about what you're going to do, people care about what you're doing.
Yes.
So if I have an idea for something,
that.
I'm not just going to be like, oh my gosh, I have this idea, like can't wait to share it with everyone. And then months later, years later, it never actually ended up happening.
Nothing annoys me more than that kind of like talking.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit about what you're interested in doing.
Or even saying like, oh my gosh, like can't wait to share like what I have in store for you guys. I'm like,
just say it.
Like I don't want to like be like, wait, I'm not waiting on the edge of my seat for you. No, like I'm sorry.
No.
Just like announce it and I'll be shocked in the moment, and then that will be exciting enough.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
So yeah, the big risk that I guess really started it all.
Why did that make a giggle?
Was I got married when I was 18.
Yeah, crazy. The big risk that started it all.
That was obviously a very controversial decision that my wife and I made, and it ruffled a lot of feathers in the time. And we're all good now. Don't you worry. But it definitely, kind of, I guess I want to say that it like showed people that like this was going to be a habit of mine, doing things. Well, because we got so much pushback to the point where like it was obviously a really hard decision for us.
Yeah.
And it wasn't one that we just like did like without necessarily considering options. But anyway, let's not get into that.
The big risk that started it all.
The big risk that started it all. And then obviously having kids too. I mean, like I'll dive in a little bit about that. Was like we didn't plan on getting pregnant right away.
Ooh, they just couldn't stay away from each other.
We actually got pregnant on birth control.
On birth control?
And then
dude, Gabe's swimmers are that strong.
What can I say?
They were
then,
that eager.
Unfortunately, we lost that first baby. But then we had already like psyched ourselves up to be parents.
Oh, like that showed you were ready.
It just showed us, and not necessarily, I don't think anyone's ever ready to have kids. But I think that it just showed us that like, okay, once we got over the big hurdle of like, okay, like this is happening, like we have to figure something out. Once we figured out that we could figure something out, we were just like, okay, well, like we kind of were in this mindset to be parents anyway, so like let's just do it. So
that makes total sense to me.
Yeah. So the circumstances led us to that. So there's another risk. Like obviously, like being parents at 19 is not
so crazy.
The most sane idea in the world. Yes. Like consciously deciding to be parents at 19. What's wrong with us? Anyway, so yeah, that, and then I was working at Starbucks. I was a store manager there. I had a pretty steady salary that was very comfortable. Like we bought a condo while I was on that salary when I was like 20, so like obviously like we were doing well here in San Diego. And then after like a year and a half of that, I was like, yep, you know what, this is not what I want to do. I can't keep doing this. I know that it's not like the direction I want to go, so what am I going to do about it? And what did I do but literally quit my job after having a second child?
How did you get yourself there mentally?
So, I distinctly remember going out to dinner with Michelle and we went to Bobo's in downtown La Mesa. And we were sitting there, and I was talking to her about how like I loved what could potentially be my work life. And we were like sitting there and just like talking, like we just had bought this condo, and we were like, what are we gonna do? Like, because Michelle is a very supportive person, and she supports me, you know, like loving my job, and like also trusts me because my decisions have really worked out for us. Our decisions, sorry, not my decisions. Our decisions have really worked out.
Little slip of the tongue.
A little slip
there.
of the tongue. I mean, there were some decisions that were mine, like especially when it comes to like my business, like we have to be on the same page, but it was my idea. And then same goes for her. Like she's had ideas that we have gone forward with too, but she has a lot of trust in the things that I have done because they have worked out. And so, I remember sitting there and just being like, you know what, like, yeah, obviously, like if I had decided to do this a couple years ago, it would have probably been a little bit easier of a transition because it was just the two of us. But it's not like we're just like we knew we wanted to have at least one more kid. We knew that, you know, it just was going to become worse and worse timing unless I did it now. So like really, when you really look at it, it was like now is actually the best time to do it because a year from now, it's going to be even harder to make this decision. So I encourage you all to think from that perspective too, because like a lot of times what's keeping us from doing things and taking risks is like, well, now it's just not the right time. Like we're doing this, we're doing that. We're like busy with this and that. That's always going to be there. And odds are it's actually, there's going to be more obstacles the more you live your life that will get in the way of you pursuing the things that you want to pursue.
The longer you go in life, you only feel more settled in your life. Like only more reasons come to not make any changes. So I guess that kind of now or never mentality is kind of good, I guess.
The now or never mentality is really good. So I like to think about that. That's a great way that you put it, now or never. I know that's a phrase, but I've never really thought about it until just now. It's like, if I don't do it now, then I'm never going to try. So is it worth me, you know, potentially, you know, not having as great of a place to live or like having to move, you know, into a area of San Diego that is more affordable or whatever, like it is like, is it worth making that type of sacrifice in order to potentially do even better for myself or just like what I'm doing more?
I say, yeah.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree completely. So I think another thing that just came to my mind too is like,
we're good in the moment today.
When you really are looking forward to something, you're also way more motivated to put time and effort into that.
Absolutely.
So like I had like a good job and a job that I saw like a future with. Like I thought that I was just going to keep climbing up the retail like management chain, like become district manager, like move up in that like corporate management. And
corporate Daddy Conover.
Thinking about it just makes me like, I could not imagine. And like, so I had something going for me with Starbucks and there was like a little bit of motivation, but I saw myself like really like not being super inspired by where I saw the company going or like what was happening inside of the company. And so once I decided that I was going to like create this new business for myself and really pursue weddings and photography and stuff like that, it was like, I was so motivated to get stuff done that like, it's like I was like on Adderall 24/7, which I wasn't, but it was like I was. I was so focused on getting all of this stuff out there and doing a really good job. And I loved every second of it for a moment that like, it made myself so much more successful than I could have been with Starbucks.
Yeah.
Because my 1 hour of work doing something that I loved compared to 1 hour of work doing something that I wasn't quite sure of was so much more productive.
Of course. And
that goes a long way.
There's a motivation piece too when you're doing something for yourself. And there is something so like gratifying about like, I will get out what I put into this.
Correct.
In a way where like my friends who have jobs that have to like wait around for a raise or wait around for whatever, or like wait around for approval. Like I know if I work harder, I will book more and I can charge more. And like the outcome is directly affected to like my input, which is fucking awesome. Whereas like a lot of people who, you know, if you work for someone else, like that piece may not be there so much. Not saying there's anything wrong with working for someone else.
Absolutely
if that's
not.
your bliss. We're just talking about if you're in the place where you want to take a risk, maybe that's why you're listening to this. So that's who we're talking to.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Cool. yeah, so that risk was a thing.
And it's obviously been wildly successful.
Well, yeah, and the opportunities that I've had, even just through making that decision, like this podcast, like I didn't think I would ever do something like this. This was not on my mind. This was not on the horizon for me. But I'm also just like, I don't plan my life really too much into the future.
That's amazing.
Because I just really like to see what opportunities come my way.
Yeah.
And so this opportunity presented itself. Cammie literally came to me and was like, we need to start a podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. We absolutely do.
This has actually always been in our destiny.
Exactly.
And now it's just presented itself.
Exactly. And so here we are now.
Yeah.
And like, if I kept living, like planning my life, like, oh, well, in 5 years, I want to have X, Y, and Z taken care of. Like, you know, like I want to have a vacation home and wherever, like blah, 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 blah. Like if I lived that way, then I would be shutting so many doors that I had no idea would, you know, really benefit me in such a positive way. I've made so many connections. I've made, you know, friends and like lifelong friends that I know.
Just by holding your plans lightly and keeping an open mind.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So I want to talk about specifically where are we at with time? Because I don't know.
12 minutes.
Okay,
You're doing amazing.
So I want to specifically talk about like the things that hold people back from taking risks.
Yes.
And like I'm just wired a little different. You know, everyone's different. I'm naturally very impulsive. I'm naturally just very aware of like people around me and like the opportunities that I can see in different relationships, different business relationships, different like marketing outlets, yada yada yada. TikTok, for example, like I'm aware of these opportunities. Whether I go after them or not is like a different thing. But I the things that keep people from making risks, the number one thing is obviously like comfortability and money, finances.
Let's talk about comfort.
Yes. Yeah. And like being comfortable is something that some people don't want to sacrifice. And, you know, it's because that's who they are and that's totally fine. I am not that way. Like, I don't want to just be comfortable for the rest of my life. Like, I love being challenged. I love growing. I love learning new skills.
Yeah.
I love trying new things. So being comfortable just really isn't an option for me.
Love that.
Which is why this has been so great, is because the creative world just like offers so many different opportunities while still also maintaining like the same type of career. You know, like I'm still doing weddings and I'm still having a great time, but I'm also able to do this podcast. I'm able to open a studio. I'm able to like sell presets and create courses, whatever it is.
Yep.
And so I'm lucky that I'm in that type of field that offers that type of opportunity.
Amazing.
So money and finances. Obviously the ideal is to have enough money that like you could be like, okay, I'm going to take this risk, and even if it doesn't work out, I still have got all of this money in savings that could support me until I figure it out. Obviously that is an ideal, but that is not a reality for 99% of people. It was not a reality for me when I decided to take this leap. Like, we had an okay amount of money that like would hold us off for a few months, but it wasn't like I had like a year's supply of rent available at my fingertips. Like, of course not. I'm a self-made person. I don't have a trust fund or anything like that. So, ideally, yes, that would have been the case. But what I did have was like connection and, you know, the resources that I could like go back to maybe Starbucks if I wanted to go back, find another retail management position at some other type of, you know, like store or whatever it was. I remember when like I decided to make this decision, I was also just like looking at job site. I don't know. I haven't done this in so long.
Yeah, those like job listing sites.
Yeah, job listing sites and like looking at other retail management positions. One that came up was like a Madewell store, and I was like, Madewell. Michelle really likes Madewell. Like that could maybe be a thing. So I was just kind of like keeping this bank of like, okay, I've got about 2 years of retail management experience under my belt. That would look, and it was at Starbucks, and here's the amount of money my store brought in every week. Like, I can use this as a, okay, like, hey, Madewell, like, I've done this. Like, at least I had that in my back pocket. So yes, like having some sort of like backup plan, of course, is a good idea.
Yeah.
Where am I headed?
Well, I don't know where you're
I could
headed.
ramble.
I just think it's good. I see what you're saying, that it's good to have a backup plan if you need one. But I also want to point out that running the kind of business we run, so sometimes I go through spirals where I'm like, I'm not qualified for anything besides wedding photography. So like if this all fails, what happens next, or what's next for me after this? And then I'm kind of brought down and reminded that like, oh my God, wait. I'm not just qualified to be a wedding photographer.
Yeah,
I've been running a business for 10 years almost. Like that is, I mean, communication, email communication, marketing, photography related things.
And you have like your
running the business,
your bank statements to support like, hey, look, this is the amount of money I brought in.
But I just think like you accrue a lot of skills.
Yes.
Accrue? Accrue? I think it's accrue. You accrue a lot of skills. Obviously not speaking skills from me. But
professionalism.
You get a lot of skills running this kind of business that we're just more qualified than we think. Like the people part of it, all of the
we are more qualified than we think.
All of the business stuff is like a crash course in so many things. It's education like college couldn't have provided, which I did do college too, but like it's all of this is just so much education. We're so much more qualified than we think. If you want to move jobs, I mean, I've like looked at job sites before, like what's out there, and I feel like I could make a case for why I could do a lot of them just based on the skills of what I have done over the last 10 years.
I think that helped remind me of where I was headed.
No, we're very connected.
We are. We just know.
I know. We really do.
Telekinesis, telepathic.
We're telepathic.
Anyway. Yep. Psychic. Okay, so pretty much what I was trying to say is that like people one, they don't want to like spend money on, like, you know, obviously to open a business you have to spend money and you have to figure all that out.
Yeah.
People don't want to spend money not knowing that it's going to work out. And so I'll kind of give you like a little bit of a story to explain this well. When I was opening my studio, I was like, okay, like I have no idea what it's like to run a business that's brick and mortar or like anything like that, like have like actual employees, yada yada yada.
So crazy.
All very new to me. Obviously a big risk, something I wanted to explore. In my mind, I had to convince myself like, hey, like even if this doesn't work out and you do lose money on this, one, you didn't go to college. Like, so like people, when they go to college and they learn, they go into debt 9 out of 10 times, right? And people are paying off that debt to learn those skills that they thought they wanted to learn or needed to learn, actually needed to learn in order to have the career that they wanted.
Basically to just pay for the school. It's a very fascinating cycle.
Yeah, don't ask me about college.
Yeah. Really fascinating.
If I do end up losing money off of my studio, I'm looking at that as my college experience, my education experience.
And truly, like when he was opening the studio is when we were starting this podcast. So like every week he'd come in and be like, oh my God, this came up. Or like this week, this came up.
Oh, it was a disaster.
Like every week there was like a new thing he was learning.
Yes.
And now he knows it.
Oh my gosh. I have so much more like peace with messing up with the government now than I used to. Like I would mess things up and now I'm like, oh yeah, like whatever. Like if I get fined, oh well, at least I learned something.
At least I learned something. That's
but before
amazing.
It was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get put in jail.
Oh my gosh,
which is so stupid.
You learn so much just opening this one business. I feel like you would be qualified just from this experience for so many other kinds of jobs if you needed.
Or even like if I did want to do something like this in the future, it will be so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier and so much less stressful because I've had this one experience.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't completely work out how I wanted to, at least I learned so freaking much. And two, like I was telling Cammie just before we were recording, talk to like your grandparents, talk to your parents, your uncles, your aunts, who like, you know, the people that are older than you and like older generations than you that you respect, and ask them about their experiences taking risks. Ask them about like, what are the risks that you've taken and how has it affected you? Are you glad you made that risk? Like what is it? They're pretty much always going to tell you like, oh my gosh, yeah, I did this and like, wow, it didn't really work out, but it was such a good, like I learned so much from it. It taught me this. I wouldn't have this, business if I didn't try this out, yada, yada, yada. Like there's so much that goes into every person's successes, and there are so many failures that go into every person's successes that like, why are we so afraid of failing? I think it's because one, we have this like mindset that like it's going to be embarrassing to like tell other people when we failed, or like two, like especially in America, there's just this like grind or die type mindset where it's like you need to work hard, and like you need to make sure that you're successful and that you're putting money into stocks and buying property and blah 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 blah.
Are you
like,
just saying random adult words?
I mean, do I have stocks? No.
So this is just a series of random adult
I do have
words.
property though.
Yeah, you do.
So it's just like stuff like that. It's like actually like you have so much time to figure all of that out, and like as you're taking these risks and as you're growing, like you're only going to get better and like more knowledgeable and have so many more skills that you can apply to whatever you want to put yourself, you know, into in the future.
Yeah.
Like I'm super interested in fashion. Do I know anything really about the fashion world? Not really, besides like visually what I like. But like all of the things that I'm investing myself into now, like let's say down the road, I'm not saying I want to do this, but like I want to open up a fashion line or something like that. Like I've got some of those skills already, and it's because of the risks that I've taken and because of the scenarios I put myself into.
Yes.
That maybe I didn't know, maybe they're not working out exactly how I wanted them to now, but who knows? Like they could be benefiting me so much for the future.
I know. That's so cool. Like you never know what things are going to lead to.
Right.
Which is so exciting and crazy and thrilling.
Right.
So fucking sick.
Yeah.
That's so cool. How did you decide that it was like okay to start the studio? That was a terrifying risk and you were crazy to do it.
I think I just decided it because I didn't think too hard about it.
Okay, there it is.
I mean, reality is like I decided I wanted to open up a studio, and then a week later I signed a lease.
Yeah, you're crazy like that.
I do think, again, I think that my mindset is a blessing and a curse, and I've learned to reel it back a little bit, and I'm still like learning how to create that balance of like how impulsive to be. But at the same time, I also think that people like think way too hard about things.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'm a good example of this too. Like I think way too hard about like how much the government's going to come after me if I mess something up. And like, has the government ever come after me? No,
Do you have some issues with authority?
I mean, it's more that like I just like I know that there's all these rules that I don't know,
scary,
and I'll never understand. And like I have a lawyer, and I talk to him, and I'm just like,
wow,
oh God, like I'm glad that you know these things because I can't find these answers anywhere.
Yeah.
I feel like it should be so easy. Like Google how to open a business. What permits do you need?
No, it's not easy.
It does. That type of thing doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
And so, you know, at the end of the day, like, am I doing anything illegal? No. I mean, if I messed up a little bit, they might fine me. And if they find out, but I'm like, I actually am trying to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And that's all that people want is they just want to know that you're trying to follow the rules. So stuff like that. I mean, I think that people think too hard and they like psych themselves out for the worst case scenario. And I think that, at least my parents' generation is really good at over analyzing the worst case scenario and like, well, you have to be prepared for everything. You need to have this degree, you need to have this, you need to have, you know, X amount of dollars in your savings account, you need to make sure all of your credit cards are paid off, blah 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 blah, before taking any sort of risk. Which like Dave, if you've ever done a Dave Ramsey class, you know who Dave Ramsey is?
Yeah.
Okay. I like was put through I like went through that class, and I like look back and I'm like, bro, like, okay, like that works to be comfortable, but like not everyone wants to be comfortable.
Like I also want to enjoy my life.
Yeah, exactly. Money is meant to serve us. We're not meant to serve money. And which is a privilege we have here in America. But like, I would encourage you to not always just be stressed out about the worst case scenario. Also think about the best case scenario.
So I've had to teach myself a lot because, you know, anxiety. I am a big catastrophizer. So like I believe worst case catastrophe all the time. Like I believe that's the time. I believe that's what will happen, but I have had to retrain my brain to be like, but what if it works out?
Dude, oh, yes. Yeah,
I want to get that tattooed on me.
What if it works out?
But what if it works out?
Oh,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, because I've like, that has changed me, you know? Like just trying to think like, but no, Cammie, like what if it will actually all work out for you?
Yeah.
And then it's like that, even just that thought is like, I'm near tears. Like, but what if it will work out, you know?
Yeah, okay, well, I want to, let's close with that statement then, because I think this is great, because every time that I'm like telling someone about a new idea or whatever, the first thing that comes to people's minds is, oh, well, what if this? And like, it's a bad thing. It's like, well, what if the worst case scenario happens?
But what if it works out?
I feel like we should all be training ourselves to ask that other question. Obviously, we need to ask ourselves the worst case scenario question.
We're not saying being stupid.
Don't be stupid. But first, we should be asking, what is the best case scenario?
Like what could your life
if this
look
all
like?
works out exactly according to plan, what could you have?
What if it works out?
What if it works out? So ask yourself that first when you want to take a risk, instead of what is the worst case, what is the best case.
And let
go from
yourself
there.
get stoked first.
Yes, let yourself get stoked first. And then when you do deal with those worst case scenario questions, I feel like you'll handle them a lot better and a lot more logically.
Yeah.
Because like one worst case scenario thing that gets brought up in our house all the time, because my wife doesn't work and she doesn't have a degree. I don't have a degree. Doesn't matter. Is like, well, like, what if like Gabe dies? And like you have to support yourself. I'm like, okay, well, like, let's not think about that first of all. I mean, we kind of need to think about it a little bit, but then like my answer is like, well, I'm sure that our family would support you until you figure it out.
Also
well, what if everyone else dies?
Oh,
okay, well, if everyone else dies, then I'm sure there's an apocalypse right now, and like you're literally about to die.
Same way. Yeah.
So that type of stuff.
Also, life insurance. Get life insurance.
Yeah,
she'll be fine.
Yeah. That type of mindset is what is like unhealthy worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
Like you can't think that way, because if those types of things are happening, like there is so much more going on than we can even fathom. So train yourself out of that. Train yourself out of like diving deep into those
Which is
holes.
what I'm doing right now. Yeah. I'm learning to like, I'm training myself to be like, but what if it works out for you?
Oh, I love that.
Because
I love that. You should get it tattooed. You honestly should.
I think I'm going to next week maybe.
Good.
Okay, cool.
Make the impulsive decision.
I'm going to do it.
Make like Gabe and get that tattooed.
I'm going to, but what if it works out?
Oh, I love it.
But what if it works out?
Well, with that said, everyone, I hope this was a really good pep talk into just, I guess, being a little bit riskier and not like thinking too depressingly about the decisions that you want to make.
We need to end with that sentence.
Yeah.
But what if it works out?
But what if it works out?
But what if it works out? Goodbye.